Reverend Simon Bouie remembers March 14, 1960 well.
We got to the door and I looked at Talbot. The Talbot looked at me. You want to go inside? I said, yeah, if you want to go in, we go in. We're going to protest. And the two of us kind of said to ourselves that we would go in. We had about 3 or 4 others that followed behind us, but the masses of the marchers, they remained on the outside.
Inspired by the wave of protests sweeping the nation, that day, Bouie and Talmadge Neal took seats at the lunch counter inside Eckert's drugstore, waiting to be served.
When I got to that door, something kind of hit me. It said that somebody has to do this. Somebody has to take a stand. And I felt strongly about that. One of the reasons I went into Eckert's, they had all these white people around, They were frowning, making different noises, whispering, And there we were, right in the gist of things.
Instead of being served, the pair were arrested and charged with trespassing.
One important thing to note, and I've learned this having talked to Reverend Bouie over the years, is that on March 14, 1960, they bring themselves to those lunch counters. But they also bring with them memories and experiences and history. Reverend Bouie lived near the corner of Gervais and Oak Street. And in his community were people who set an example for him. Not too far from where he lived on Page Street was a woman named Sarah Mae Fleming, who challenged bus segregation in 1954. Not too far from him was a man named George Elmore, who challenged the all-white Democratic Party in 1946. There was a man in his community named the Reverend James Hinton, who faced violence and the Klan to protest discrimination. He knew Reverend E.A. Adams, one of the organizers of the Victory Savings Bank, whose daughter was Charity Adams Early. So he brings all of that understanding and history to that lunch counter on March 14, 1960. And so here are these young men and women who have said, we've lived our lives under this cloud of discrimination and injustice. The Constitution that we learned at Booker Washington tells us that is illegal, and we're now going to demand our rights. And so they're among that brave cohort of people who dared to question the status quo. And many of them paid a price. And when you look at the photographs, and even in this gallery, you see hundreds of young men and women who were sacrificing their own college life for going downtown. And I think some of them did not fully understand the magnitude of what they did. So when Reverend Bouie sits down at the Eckert's drugstore on March 14, 1960, it never crossed his mind, I think, that sitting down, asking to be served, would lead to a landmark United States Supreme Court case, taught in nearly every major law school in this country.
In 1964, the United States Supreme Court overturned their convictions, ruling that denying service at segregated lunch counters violated the 14th Amendment. The landmark decision set a powerful precedent, paving the way for challenges to segregation across the nation.
We have come a long ways, really a long ways, but we have a long ways yet to go. We have not reached our goal, but so much has been accomplished in every generation. There are those who have contributed and made a foundation for the next person, the next movement, and so forth. We keep striving.
A reminder that history is more than just a memory. It's a movement.